Hey, what's up you guys? Back here with another video, and I figured what better game to talk about than Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, I've always been a fan of RPGs, but for some reason I never found myself playing any of the Final Fantasy games. I started playing with Final Fantasy 15, and after realizing how expansive the stories are and how great the gameplay feels, I needed to continue playing the series. I never got to play the original Final Fantasy VII, but after hearing all the buzz around our good emo boy Cloud, of course I had to give it a chance.
You want to know why you'll never defeat me? Because my voice is much sexier than yours.
I challenge you to an emo off.
I accept your challenge. I win.
Once again, guys, all the footage you're about to see is going to be from the first few hours of the game, and we're going to be avoiding anything plot-heavy or spoiler-wise. One thing to keep in mind is that this game is over a 30-hour campaign, so I will be using footage from like 4 or 5 hours in, but I figured I'd warn you guys just in case. So let's get into the video.
Ah yes, the game that all the nerds and weebs have been looking forward to, Final Fantasy VII Remake. In this game, you star as a no-nonsense and admittedly overly emo character, Cloud Strife, an ex-soldier that has turned to mercenary work to pay for all his dancing lessons. Look at that. Tell me that's not money well spent. Anyway, when he goes to visit his friend Tifa while looking for work, Cloud finds himself caught up in an eco-terrorist group called Avalanche. Avalanche's main goal is to destroy all the Mako reactors.
It's basically like a big generator that is taking energy from the Earth and then using that energy to power their cities. But apparently it's hurting the Earth, so that's why Avalanche wants to break the Mako reactors, I think.
Now, I could totally go into more detail, but that would include spoilers, and we'd be here all day since this is a 35-hour plus story, so let's leave it at that and get into the nitty-gritty. Okay, so where did it begin? Well, Final Fantasy VII Remake was developed using the Unreal Engine 4. This game engine is known to be used for some amazing graphic developments. The video footage you are seeing was captured on PS4 Pro, meaning it should be running in 4K 30 frames a second. Now, of course, seeing things in much detail was great, with the environments, monsters, and even character models looking stunning at all times, but that being said, it would have been nice to have the option to lower the resolution in order to get higher frame rates. Speaking of resolution, this game also takes advantage of dynamic resolution. This basically means that it automatically lowers the resolution to maintain that steady 30 frames a second in graphic intensive scenes. I will say though, I can't recall a single time that I noticed the resolution dip while playing. Now, your results may vary depending on which PlayStation you own and other little factors like where you store it, how much air ventilation there is, but I will say, after playing this game through, I believe it's very well optimized for the system. It also probably helped that this was a console exclusive, so all focus was on getting it to run on the PS4 only. Anyway, I digress. Despite the fact that you never leave Midgar and you're constantly in the slums during the game, I think the team did a great job of creating each sector and making areas that look run down somehow manage to look beautiful. Not to mention, it makes other areas like Wall Market feel even more gorgeous when comparing it to some of the, let's say, more lived-in areas. I don't know, man. Not everyone could be these people who live on Topside. And a real quick rant. How obnoxious do you have to be to literally build a plate over a bunch of people and make it so nice to then call it Topside? That literally is so elitist status, but once again, I'm getting away from myself. Gameplay. Yes, you read that right. In this remake of the original RPG, Square Enix has traded the traditional turn-based combat for a more modernized method of combat. This is similar to Final Fantasy XV's combat system. Now, I'm going to try my hardest to explain and break down this combat system, but please bear with me because it's a lot to grasp at first. But trust me, when you get it, it'll be like second nature. So, When fighting, you can have up to a team of 3 characters. This team will change depending on the chapter of the story you're playing through. When fighting in a battle, you have 4 things to pay attention to: your health, your ATB gauge or active time battle gauge, your MP or magic points gauge, and of course, your limit gauge.
Okay, you with me so far? I know it's a lot, but we'll get through it, I promise.
Health bar. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but while playing this game, it's very important not to just keep an eye on your own health, but also the health of your teammates. If you see someone's health is getting low, you might want to find a way to strategically take the enemy's attention away from that character and then find time to heal them. With the ATB gauge, basically the more damage you deal, the faster this gauge fills. When the gauge is full, it allows you to use a special ability specific to that character, or spells in addition to standard combat. This gauge will continuously fill as you fight, but it's up to you to figure out the way to use your abilities in tandem with the rest of your combat options. Next, the MP gauge. This gauge also fills as you fight, but at a much slower rate. The MP you gain can be used with magic and spells. This could be anything from an elemental spell to a healing spell, and they come in handy during big boss fights when exploiting their weaknesses. Lastly, there's the limit gauge. Now think of this as a character's final smash that builds up as they take damage. Each character will unleash a series of heavy attacks on the enemy. Unless you're Aerith, you heal your whole team. This takes a big chunk of their health down, and it comes very in handy when you're in a tough spot.
Did you get all that? Because trust me, I know this is a lot to worry about, and not only do you have to worry about this one thing for one character, you have to worry about all this stuff for all the characters in your party.
Now, there's a lot more to consider when you're in a battle with enemies. You have to take into account their weaknesses, their attacks, and even occasional summon abilities. But I promise you, once you get the hang of it, this game is going to be so much fun. Never once did I rage quit from dying so much, or get stumped by a boss for more than 2 or 3 attempts. Not to mention, the story of this game is so interesting and captivating that it always makes you want to continue on playing so you can find out what's going to happen next. Something that's also worth mentioning is the upgrade system. While progressing through the game, your characters gain experience points that will lead you to level up, and once you level up, you'll be able to upgrade some of your weapons. I think they did a great job with this aspect. Not only are you able to upgrade the weapon you are currently wielding, it also allows you to upgrade the weapons in your inventory, so you can always count on being able to switch anything out and still be confident that you are still using a strong enough weapon against enemies. At some points in the game, you'll run into times where characters leave your party for extended periods. But fear not, when they return, you will find that their weapons and levels have scaled along with your experience. So catching them up to speed and making sure they're strong enough for the next encounter is a breeze. Once again, I think it's important to note that there are a lot of different aspects and enhancements you can make to your gameplay as you progress. But if you are one of those kids that just prefer to play Fortnite and COD, this might not be the game for you.
Listen, I know that some games aren't for everyone, but if one of you Fortnite or COD kids come into this anime holy world just to take on it, just so you know, I wish you a life of stick drift.
Okay, so now that we covered the gameplay, let's talk about the things I didn't like about this gaming experience. And to be completely candid, I don't really have much to complain about. After sitting here and taking notes for an hour and a half, I couldn't think of any complaints to this game that are worth bringing up. But since people are going to ask anyway, here are 2 gripes. Issue number 1. I think that despite the tutorial in the beginning of the game, I think they could have done a slightly better job of getting the user comfortable with the mechanics. For most people who have played a Final Fantasy game, I'm sure it wouldn't take long to get the hang of it, but for someone like me who hasn't played a JRPG for a while, it's a bit overwhelming at first. After time though, I did get a hang of it and slowly remembered the mechanics of the other games in the franchise. Okay, issue number 2. Ladders. Yes, ladders. You heard that right. This can definitely be a problem with myself, but I find that when traveling up or down ladders, the camera angle eventually changes, and thus technically making the direction I'm pointing my thumbstick now in the opposite direction. It happened a few times, but honestly, it didn't ruin my experience at all. This is just me digging at the bottom of the barrel for something to complain about. Guys, really, these are the only 2 complaints I have about this game, and let me tell you, no game is the perfect game, but I feel like Final Fantasy VII Remake is pretty damn close. After completing all the side quests, enjoying every cutscene, and fighting every boss, the feelings I have towards this game are extremely positive. I loved every moment getting to know these characters, and I even shed a few tears during later parts of the game. The way these stories were reworked and written always had me wondering what was next. This is well over a 30-hour campaign, and it's technically only the first part of the original game, which means a part 2 might possibly be in the cards for the future. I would go into more on the characters, but we're trying to avoid spoilers, so I'll leave you with these two things. Seeing how these characters develop along with Cloud and even with each other, it's definitely one of the biggest things that make me think this game is worth every penny. And secondly,
Aerith is too good for this world, and I hope you realize I will fight anyone who says otherwise. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun playing this game and tons of fun just writing the script. I found myself itching to get back into it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a comment, like the video itself, and even subscribe if you want to see future content. Why don't you tell me what game I should talk about next? I've been thinking of doing some retrospective series where I talk about different licensed games like Nicktoons Unite and SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. If that's something you'd like to see, make sure you let me know. Lastly, if you're into any video game news and podcasts, I do co-host a podcast with my friend Sophia called the Pixels Podcast. We'll put like a little thumbnail picture here for the podcast itself. We talk video game news, we'll do different segments, like currently working on an Xbox Game Pass segment where we give you up-to-date information on what is currently in the store, what is leaving the store, and every so often we'll pick a game off of Game Pass and give our thoughts and review on it. Basically like an impromptu review, and we're having a blast with it, so feel free to click the link down below to see that content. And finally, I also do stream every Tuesday and Thursday, and also Saturdays from 6 to 11, so I will make sure to leave that link down there as well. I hope you're doing very well and you're all safe and healthy. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.